Alright, so I just want to do a quick video for those of you who've purchased just the standalone PCB for the version 1 of my race timer. This should be a quick assembly video, a couple things to look out for, and a couple things that you can do to also get your LEDs to work. So this is my PCB, and this is the Raspberry Pi Zero 2W. The two things you need, plus an SD card, and you'll need your RX 5808 here. What I like to do is assemble this to this and then make sure everything's working there before I slap on my RX 5808 receiver. So in the package, you most likely received, I believe I sent 12 headers to everyone. You would only need 11. I just sent one for spares. So what I like to do is assemble them onto this guy, and then I'll attach the Pi. You can do that in a couple ways. I guess in theory, you don't need the headers. You could potentially line these up, get your iron down deep in that slot, and just solder pad to pad, but that's gonna be kind of difficult in this format here. So what I do is I'll put this in my helping hands, and I'll come up underneath, and I'll throw the header in there, get it lined up nice and tight, and then tack it down on one side, and then make sure it's straight, and then go ahead and tack the rest on. And so basically the one thing you need to look out for here is this first pad right here on the board. That's your RGB LED output. So you don't want to solder that to your Pi. So you'll have your 11 pins, and that starts one in. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So these 11 on the right. Again, you want to skip this first pad right here. That's your LED output. If you were to solder your header pins into all these pads and then align it to the first pad on your Pi, you would actually, well, you're technically shorting 5-volt and ground together, but you're also going to fry your RX TX line, I believe, on the Pi, and probably on this guy too, kind of requiring all new equipment. I've done that a couple times actually now, not really paying attention. The next revision will, no, I'm not going to say foolproof it, but it will be a lot harder to slip up. So again, you can take your header and again skip this first slot. So we'll put it in the next 5 there. You can do it like this. It's a lot easier to get them straight when you put them in this orientation. But then it's harder because you want to pull this plastic off after the fact. It's harder to get that out. You can grab some needle nose and pull on it and it'll work. So it's technically a little easier to remove the plastic if you put it in, with the pins lengthwise like this. Again, this would be in your helping hands, but you could put the pins in like this, kind of tack it in, make sure it's straight, and then it's a lot easier to remove this plastic piece off the back end. So you do that. You get your 5 in there, and then once this guy's on, again, you'd remove the plastic first, but once this guy's on, you would line it up here. I can't see. Line it up like that. And then before I solder these, I'll actually snip the pins off basically level. Due to the flush cutters, it'll leave just a little bit above, and then you can solder it nice and clean. And then you'll basically end up with something like this. So again, I snipped them off here, and then, you see that it's pretty nice and clean right there. And this is what it should look like. You should have these little 2 pins exposed. Those are just the supporting pins for the USB. There's no voltage or ground on those. But that's how it should look. If these are kind of covered up by the Pi, then your orientation is not quite correct. So yeah, again, first thing, you just want to skip that first pad, and just solder your 11 pins to all the rest. Long time to explain that simple thing. But then if you get it all assembled, if you want to get your LEDs out, this is kind of what I do. I have an MR30 here. I don't power mine from the USB here. I power mine from, it's basically a USB input at the bottom of the gate, which then splits power out to my LEDs and to my timer. This timer is not meant to feed your LEDs power, because your LEDs can pull a lot of power, and that could potentially burn this unit down. So I have a USB input splitter that provides power to this guy and power to my LEDs, but this white line here is hooked to my LED output, and it comes down this way. So I'll get power and ground in here, but then I'll get my RGB LED out, which goes back down to the gate, the base of the gate where the LEDs start, and that splits out to the LEDs. So that's how you can do LED output. You don't need an MR30. You could technically just run just the white line if you're powering this off a USB. But yeah, that's what I do. So on this guy, just a quick rundown on your Pi. The first two pads you have 5 volt, 5 volt, and then ground, and then I believe it's RX and TX or TX RX, one way or the other, but it's 5 volt, 5 volt ground. So on this guy, the first pin is RGB LED, and then you have your 5 volt, 5 volt ground RX TX. So again, that's why you skip this first pad because that's not your 5 volt. So yeah. Again, basically, you just make sure you're not soldering this first pin to your Pi, and everything should be all good. Yeah, you do want to keep. Oh, I don't have it on this one. Well, as you've seen, with the units I ship out, they do have a little Kapton tape over these two pins right here. They're not technically grounded, but there's potentially, some pads on the bottom of the Pi that might come in contact, and I just wanted to avoid all issues. So I've actually kind of flattened the solder down on the boards, cleaned it up, and then put a little Kapton tape to protect that. That's like the one thing I didn't catch in my pre-manufacturer review, but on the next unit that's fixed actually by a lot for a few reasons. But yeah, so there you go. Let me know if you have any questions. I just wanted to give a little introduction to kind of how I'm providing power to my LEDs and to the timer. I need to detail this a little more on the GitHub and kind of do a little more in-depth explanation of it. But this is essentially, it's a USB trigger board set to 5 volts, 3 amps. USB goes in here, and then it splits out to two MR30s. The MR30s each get the power directly from the trigger board here, 5 volts, 3 amps, and then the LED signal is the yellow wire. They come down and they just connect right here on the side to connect each other. So power will come in here. It'll go up to the timer and then out to your LEDs so that the timer is not handling any of the power. But then the LED signal will come down from the timer, from the lead that runs up the inside of the gate, come down to the timer, hit here, split, and then go to your LEDs. That's kind of how I have everything connected. And I'll just kind of show you that real quickly if this all works out. Yeah, very nice. So this kind of sits, I'm going to snap it all the way up. This sits in the foot of your gate. USB cord goes out to your USB power brick, or it could even be a battery bank if you want, if you're not really running a lot of LEDs or anything. Just the timer. Just the timer alone doesn't really pull much power. But then, yeah, so this goes up, your gate sits on it, and then within the gate, you got your LEDs, which one of these hooks into, and then the other one runs up a whip up to your timer. And yeah, that's just about it. Should work pretty reliably. This is just a little Adafruit trigger board. I think it's $10. Get it on DigiKey, get it on Adafruit. There's a little mount made for it. It doesn't really lock in. This isn't really like a final design, more of a prototype. But I will finalize it at some point and probably get it up on the GitHub. Yeah, there we go.